Hello. I had a thought of something I was worried about just a few minutes ago, and it became an uncomfortable feeling that I could recognize as a feeling of separation. And it seems that in the past you've talked about when that happens to trace the feeling back to its source.
I have a question first. Was the thought the origin of the feeling, or was the feeling the origin of the thought?
I don't know. It seemed that the thought came first, because I was sitting here with no feelings.
Yes.
And then
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think it was the thought that came first, because I remember my mind was kind of going over its,
So
what
then
it does.
when that happens, you see, there is no point trying to deal with the feeling. You see, because then it will be even focusing on the wrong, running after the wrong prey or whatever. It will be focusing on the wrong item, because you want always to move upstream.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So that's why it's so important to see, because you can see it. You can even in hindsight. You don't need to. You can go back, take a new look, a fresh look at the etiology of the thing, at the history of the thing, because it's a very recent history. You see, and see whatever it was that came first, and that's with which you have to deal. And so then that's a thought, and that's important, because then you have to see that in this thought there was explicitly or implicitly the belief of me as a separate person.
Yes.
So then, at least you see that as long as you believe to be a separate consciousness, the process will go on indefinitely of triggering thoughts of that nature, and in turn feelings, and in turn agitation, fear, etc. So the question is this thought that was there mandatory? Does the reality of the situation, the reality of things, compel this thought?
I would say no, but in the moment it seems.
No, but now, we don't care about the past.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we are not bound by what was our thought. We need flexibility, like in yoga. So, who cares about what I was thinking or what I was believing 2 minutes ago? What is true now? That's that which matters.
It's part of a whole cluster of thoughts of separation that are habitual, probably from childhood.
But regardless of all that stuff, where they come, that again, whether they are habitual or not, whether they come from childhood, all of that is irrelevant. The only relevancy there is that true?
It's not true.
No, you cannot make this decision perhaps that quickly. But the only question that is relevant is that true. I don't care whether I have inherited these thoughts from my dad, my mom, and I love them so much that I have a hard time, divorcing these thoughts. That is irrelevant. The only question is, what's the truth about these thoughts, you see? And the central issue of this cluster is the belief in me as a separate consciousness. Because the only thing that matters to you is what happens to consciousness. Ultimately, that's the only thing. Why? Because the only thing that matters to you is your experience. And consciousness is your experience.
So I guess I'm looking for a specific way to examine the thought. Is that what you're recommending, that I examine the thought and or like know that the thought stems from my belief that I'm separate and then ask once again, is that true?
The latter more than the former.
Yeah.
Because if you investigate the thought with the intention of get rid of the thought, good luck. Right?
Yeah.
But if you investigate the truth of the thought, and if you discover that there is no truth to it, you don't need to make the slightest effort to get rid of the thought. The thought is vaporized by the truth, you see? Otherwise, you see, oh, I have this nagging thought. I want to get rid of it. I have this nagging thought that, I don't know, that I'm going to be left alone and that I'm going to die an horrible death because nobody is going to take care of me. So, and I have this nagging thought. And I try to investigate the thought because this nagging thought is very uncomfortable and I want to get rid of it. But the more I investigate the thought, the more I reinforce the thought. Let's take another example. Let's take this. Let's assume you in fact, you are filthy wealthy, but you believe that you have no money and that you are going to die poor and miserable, and you have a fixation on this thought, right? And you say, I don't like this thought, I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to meditate, I'm going to use the opposite thought, I'm very wealthy, or whatever, you know, in order to try to do something about this thought. But the more I try to do something about this thought, the more, in fact, I reinforce it. It's very different from investigating the truth about this thought. Very different. What's the truth about it? I am poor. What's the truth about it? Well, let's pay a visit to the bank. That would be the investigation. You know, let's talk to the bank manager, or let's go online, let's take a look at the account, or whatever. You see, that's the true investigation. You see what I mean? You investigate the truth of the thought. Not because you want to get rid of the thought, which you feel is nagging you. No. Just because you want to know the truth about it. Very different. If I want to know the truth about something, I'm open. You see what I mean? If I want to get rid of something, I'm not open. I've made my decision. I want to get rid of that. And the fact that I want to get rid of that means implicitly that I give that I validate that I recognize it as a true problem. You see? In other words, I ipso facto recognize that I am poor in the example. The more I try to so it's the truth
Okay.
of the thought. And in this case, always what it boils down to is the truth of the thought that I am a limited person, that I am a body, that I am a woman, that I am a separate consciousness, a limited consciousness, that I am born. Before I was born, I was nothing, that I am going to die, and after I die, I am nothing. That I am a something between two nothings. That's the thought that is at the origin of all of those problems.
Yes. So I have another question. It feels a little silly to ask this after that was like a really deep, answer you gave, but I have gotten, my life has gotten more complicated, where I live near San Diego, and for various reasons I haven't, you were gone, and now you're back, and I wasn't able to come to this whole retreat. But I am not spending as much time thinking about the truth or investigating the truth simply because of lack of being here. And it seems like my life is caught up in minutia that's kind of a lot of little tasks that kind of always there to be done. And I spend a lot of time just doing them and thinking about them. And I'm wondering if this kind of way of living is hindering my search for the truth. And if there's, I do live in this world. I'm not ready to go, live in a cave. But is there a way to deal with everyday life and still deeply search for the truth?
Absolutely. If you don't search for the truth is going to search for you in your life. And the way it manifests is through suffering. The suffering that we experience is the truth calling us. And when we answer the call, we suffer less and less and less. So that's why ultimately, all sheep come back home. You see what I mean? So what we have to experientially recognize is that when we really seek the truth and not, which is very different from seeking to alleviate problems, to get rid of problems, to get rid of pain, to get rid of psychological pain, to get rid of the feeling, to get rid of the thought. No. Just seeking the truth. Every time we seek the truth, there is a relief. And the more we seek the truth, or the more we abide as the truth, because seeking leads to abiding. And the more happy we live our lives, the more burden-free we are. So we have to experientially discover that, you see. If we can, have moments in the day when we that we devote to the truth, either because we meditate or we read about the truth or we listen to something about the truth, that's very important. Because we'll discover at some point that these are moments of happiness, in fact, or at least of peace. And then we will seek those moments. But there is also the little devil in us that